Welcome to Factor Theory Live. I'm Steve Crawford. Bob Lazar may be many things, but he is not a liar. I watched him recently on a Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, I think it's called. And he was there with the producer, director, editor of the documentary movie, Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. And that's available on Netflix. You can check that out. But he, on this podcast for Joe Rogan on YouTube, he brought up things that weren't mentioned in that documentary and things that I've never heard Bob say before. So that was pretty much what got me to go, just wow. I had to stop and pop up my Bandicam and record that clip because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then they get into Tesla, and Joe tries to say it was Westinghouse that stopped Tesla. It was JP Morgan, but I digress. Anyway, check out this clip of Bob Lazar on the Joe Rogan podcast. Let me know what you think, because I've been hassled for a long time for doing time travel shows. And here's Bob Lazar, who has pretty much been proven right with Element 115 and other things that he has said about his education and where he worked that were proven, and the fact that he passed four lie detector tests. 4. So check this out.
Could be.
You should tell him some of the stuff that you read that you don't know is true. I mean, if the stuff was true about the propulsion stuff, I mean, anyway,
Well, what have you read?
What you saw too. I mean, you know.
What are you talking about? Spill the beans, Bob.
I got to poke the bear here a little bit.
Get some more liquor in you.
The only thing I could verify was what I had my hands on. There was talk of weapon systems, that there were different projects. Project Galileo, Project Sidekick was supposed to be weapon applications of the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, any effects of time in the craft. Now, I don't think we're not talking about making a time machine like in science fiction, but we're talking about, small distortions, intentional distortions of time, and how that can be used, as a, not as a, well, it was part of a weapon program.
How are you informed in this?
These, again, were just the small briefings that I read. But again, I don't really like to talk about those because I don't have any information on them, and it was just, small briefings.
But you told Commander Fravor that what he saw might have been a time dilation and not
it could be,
propulsion.
because gravity affects time, space-time. Yes. I'm sure you've heard of that. And, what Commander Fravor saw as he was in the F-18 approaching it, he said he described it as a ping pong ball in a cup and shaking it back and forth. It was moving that fast. Now, obviously, if there's anything inside there, it's going to be battered to hell. But, my point was that, one of two things. Either there's a gravitational envelope in there which negates any inertia effects, or you are seeing through a gravity distortion field. So, just like you're looking at a hot highway and you see like an optical distortion going through there. Well, the same thing happens in gravity, and the craft may not actually be moving like that. It may just look like it because you can only see it through the field. So it may be making much more gentle moves. I'm not saying that's it, but it has to be one of the two.
And the thing shows up 60 miles away. They noticed it on radar 60 seconds after it left Commander Fravor, but it was at his cap point, which is the next point he was destined to go to, 60 miles away. And in 60 seconds on radar, the same object ends up there.
So it's going a mile a second?
No, I think the radar just picked it up in 60 seconds.
Yeah, it could have been there instantly, but
we don't know.
The cycle time.
Nobody knows. That's the whole thing.
So it cycles, like radar cycles?
Like it doesn't sweep, but I mean, it scans. It's a planar array, so it scans around at random places.
That's the Spy one does the really cool Yeah, it
Right.
doesn't do the whole loop anymore.
Right. The point is, though, that the craft moved to his next location before he knew where his next location was going to be,
Jesus.
and that's
Documented.
well documented. So that's a pretty shocking piece of information.
What's fascinating to me too is that you were discussing this, the way this reactor worked, and that these things were not really connected.
No, nothing is connected. There's no wiring at all.
That freaks me the fuck out.
Charge your iPhone,
Yeah. Well, wireless,
on the little, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a
Well, I
simple
mean, Tesla-
electromagnetic. Yeah, I know again, but that's just simple magnetic induction.
Right, but I mean, Tesla, the scientist, had this concept of
Right, that's
what he's-
yeah.
that's what I'm talking
I mean, for
about,
other
yeah.
people that don't know what we're saying, he wanted to send wireless electricity through the sky, and Westinghouse was like, "Get the fuck out of here with that!" Like when anybody could just pull electricity out of the sky.
Can't meter it.
Yeah, they
It's-
couldn't.
yeah.
They couldn't.
We had
meter
this
it.
talk on the
Yeah.
car ride over. I'm trying to chill him out. We're talking about Tesla and how he couldn't be metered and how it all went down. So it's funny you bring it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, who knows what would have happened in terms of innovation had he been allowed to go forward with that?
Well, we probably wouldn't have computers.
You think?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive.
Why
I
is
mean,
that?
forget about microelectronics. Well, this is dumping huge amounts of electromagnetic energy in the air, and yeah, we'd be able to wirelessly turn on our lights, but there'd be no radio communication. The interference would be something would be overwhelming. It would induce electric currents in anything with a small wire on it. So integrated circuits, transistors would be disintegrated before they were even, tested for operation. So it would
Maybe it would
destroy.
have fucked us up.
Yeah, it would have stopped us dead. It'd be great. You can turn lighters on and heaters from all over the place with no wires, but it would stop modern electronics.
And if we became dependent on it, it would almost be like our dependence on fossil fuels. Although it's destructive, it's very difficult for us to get off the nipple.
It would have changed the course of how we developed, which is so interesting when you talk about if a civilization, another star system, didn't even start with fossil fuels. They had 115 naturally on their planet, and they're like, cool, anti-gravity is pretty awesome.
Well, the fact that they
I
didn't
think it's
have-
important that actually happened.
Yeah.
It might have been stopped in its tracks for a reason.
Whoa.
Okay, so at the end there, they're talking about Tesla, and Bob is theorizing. He's acting like it was fact, but he was theorizing that it would have changed. We wouldn't have computers and stuff. I think all that stuff still could have happened. We're talking about 100 years ago. They would have figured out a way to do some sort of shielding or make a small unit that's attached or comes attached to each device so it powers that device specifically. There are all kinds of ways that could be challenged and overcome. And we would be living a Star Trek life.
Take us into the vortex.
Instead of this mass hallucination that's being put over us, look in the skies, look just our water, everything. It's disgusting. They're trying to make us think we have to live this way, and we don't. Just because people don't want to give up a few creature comforts, I'm here to tell you you won't have to, or at least not permanently, just until the new service or devices are created. You're going to want them anyway. As soon as the newest cell phone comes out, you take off and you head out and grab one, right? Well, this would just be the same thing. Your current device would become obsolete, and you'd be upgrading to something you would never need to charge. And it would not emit the radiation that these things that we have right now do emit. There are safe frequencies. Tesla was the one who figured them out. So we really, really need to give our heads a shake. This could be a whole, we're told we have to work our asses off every day just to enjoy a little bit of something. Most of us have to work 2 jobs or more, just to to get by. Some of us can't even do that anymore. Some of us are disabled now because we had jobs and the bosses took advantage of us and we wound up in accidents or having a serious injury and then let go. I was personally cut off a workman's comp, and it's just convenient. They said that I should be on it for life, but for some reason they were cutting me off. And it made sense that my former boss, his brother, was a member of parliament here in Canada. So he put in the call to his brother and said, hey, this guy's going to be sucking off our teat for the rest of his life through workman's comp. Can you do something about it? I mean, there's no other explanation. Workman's comp was going to keep me on, right? So these are the things, the mass delusions. Okay, that's what it is. It's a mass delusion. Things we're being told to believe that are just outright wrong. And I'm hoping to get into these, even in the more spiritual sense. You will see there's another show you should check out of Joe's podcast where he takes ayahuasca, I believe is how it's pronounced, or mushrooms or something to put himself into an induced state of super being, I guess you could call it, an altered consciousness. And the things he sees are incredible. And I postulate, if that's the right word, because my brain's been mush lately, but that's something that I think when we're dosed as babies, that puts a stop to it, you know. But like, yes, there are some vaccinations we may need, but that still doesn't account for the side effects of those. And the side effect being we are cut off from source. And they love that. They don't want us knowing the true reality of everything that's out there. They just don't. And if we were not chemicaled up and poisoned, and that's how resilient we are. They've had to step up their game big time. Heavy doses with the spraying, more earthquakes. The nuclear facility Fukushima, that did not go away, people. That's still spilling into the ocean. So they're and back to the days where they first started their nuclear testing. Over 1,000 nuclear detonations in our atmosphere and or underground. You cannot think that does not have an effect on our environment long term. And they're stepping it up because that's how resilient we are. Our bodies are adapting to it. And it's maybe silly to say and think, but as a smoker, I noticed a lot of people who don't smoke cigarettes get sick a lot or coughing a lot. My daughter's among them. And I see clips saying that singers are losing their voices. And it makes sense to me that it would be because of all of this aluminum and barium, and there's something else, I can't remember the third chemical. These are things that are not supposed to be in our system, that they're spraying in our air. It's getting in our food, it's getting in our water, it gets in our air. Even now, as a smoker, I still get a bit of a raspy voice going. You go, well, that's the cigarettes. And I go, well, how come I don't get sick? It's because us smokers, because we already smoke something we shouldn't be, that we're already taking in poison. The stuff they're spraying in the air isn't affecting us as quickly as they would like it to. At least that's one of my theories. What do you think? I'm Steve Crawford, Factor Theory Live.
Have you heard this idea about the Robin Hood banker's tax?
Yes. It's a sweet little idea, taxing the banks to help the poor, but I don't think it'll work. It's very complicated and would be very tough on the banking sector.
Which has just been given billions of pounds of taxpayers' money to keep it going.
Well, yeah, of course.
And is still paying itself billions of pounds in bonuses.
Yes.
So the tax is a charge on all bank transactions that don't include members of the public. Bonds, derivatives, currency, speculative stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Very complex.
So the bankers would give how much from each deal they do? 25%?
Well, no, not that much.
10%?
No.
5%?
No, not 5.
More or less?
Slightly less.
What, 1%?
Not quite.
Half of 1%.
No.
A tenth of a percent.
No.
Half of that. They give around 0.05% of every deal.
Yeah, that's about right.
And sometimes it'd be even less. That doesn't sound like a lot to most people.
No. I can see that.
And how much would it raise to help people at home and abroad?
Oh, a fair amount, I believe.
About £1 million a year.
No, more than that.
£100 million.
More.
£500 million.
Well,
£1 billion a year.
no, it's slightly more than that, I'm told.
£10 billion.
More.
£50 billion.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
In fact, I believe it's likely to be more than £100 billion. Could be double that. Could be more than double.
Possibly.
Right. So let me get this clear. A tiny tax on the banks could raise billions of pounds every year to help save lives in the poorest countries, fund crucial action against climate change around the world, and help avoid cuts to crucial public services in this country.
Gosh. Well, yeah. That is about the sum of it. I don't know. Perhaps it's quite a good idea.
If I lay here, if I just lay